By dawn, 900 British troops under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Francis Smith were reaching the outskirts of Lexington. In the grey light, Lieutenant Sutherland of the advance guard could see a vast number of militia with their arms going over the hill towards Lexington. His comrade, Jeremy Lister, of the 10th Foot, could see beacon fires burning brightly on the surrounding hills. Imagine the effect on the redcoats of the sight of the warning beacons and the sound of the alarm church bells and musket shots. Although these men were tough regular soldiers, few of them were battle-hardened. Paul Revere had already been captured by an advance party of British officers and then released. But again, he'd done his work well. He'd told them what to expect, and rumour was passing back along the column. Paranoia was beginning to take hold. On this green, Captain John Parker, the elected commander of the Lexington militia, had mustered his men. Seeing the approaching superior numbers, Captain Parker ordered, "Let the troops pass by. Don't molest them without they being first. Stand your ground. Don't fire unless fired upon. But if they want a war, let it begin here." The lieutenant leading the British advance guard decided to march straight towards the militia, rather than bypass them along the road. His commander, Major John Pitcairn, riding up from the rear, was dismayed by this confrontational tactic.
Halt!
He tried to stop the troops and warn off the rebels.
Stand where you are! Rebels, disperse and throw down your arms! Halt the column! Halt!
Captain Parker ordered his men to disperse and not to fire, and they began to retreat. No one knows who actually fired the first shot. That moment, when flint struck steel and the spark flashed into the black powder, was decisive.
Send your firelocks.
There could be no going back.
Fire!
One kneeling militiaman, Jonas Parker, was bayoneted as he tried to reload. Jonathan Harrington was shot in the back and died just there, on his doorstep, in front of his wife. Only the arrival of Colonel Smith and the rearguard put an end to the bloodletting. 8 militiamen were dead. Sam Adams, with John Hancock, had only just left Lexington and was still in earshot. This bloodshed was exactly what he had been working for. Who actually fired this shot heard round the world? It's impossible to be sure. And in any case, it doesn't really matter, because by now conflict was inevitable. This wasn't the first blow of the American Revolution. That had already been struck with the takeover of civil authorities across the whole of Massachusetts. This was the first shot of the Civil War. That bloodletting that Thomas Gage had feared had now begun. The British pressed on to Concord, still unaware of the size and determination of the irregular force assembled against them. From up to 50 miles around, Paul Revere and his chain of riders had mobilised thousands of militiamen, spoiling for exactly this sort of fight. When Colonel Smith arrived at Concord, he found that most of the arms had already been moved. A small detachment was sent over this, the town's north ridge, to secure the weapons from Barrett's farm. About 100 soldiers were left to guard the bridge itself. Although there were already hundreds of militia on the far side, they took no action until they saw smoke and flames coming from the town. The thought of their homes being torched by the redcoats enraged the militiamen, and the cry went up, "Would you let them burn the town down?" Then something remarkable happened. This supposed rabble formed into rough lines and opened a well-aimed fire, killing 3 soldiers. Many of these rebels had served with the British against the French in the 7 Years' War, just 12 years before. About 200 militia charged over the bridge and headed for the town, following the retreating redcoats. Shortly afterwards, the British force reappeared that had been sent to Barrett's farm. As it crossed the bridge, it found a dying British soldier. According to redcoat accounts, he'd been scalped and had his ears and brain removed. It was the first atrocity story of the war. This is a war between brothers, between cousins. That's what gives events in a place like this their strange and terrible edge. These are battles between people who could so easily have been friends and often were friends.